Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and today I have 4 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. This story comes to us from 321 Backup. Screw your HOA and its ridiculous rules. Let's jump right in. Back in high school, I was all about my car. Don't get me wrong, it was a rolling piece of crap, but it was my car. It had a trade-in value of maybe $5, but it was my car. I was learning how to take care of it, by which I mean I found where the dipstick was and how to pull it. I hadn't yet moved on to tire inflation, one step at a time. One day after school, I drove over to my friend's place. We'd jump out, pop the hood, pull the dipstick, check the oil, and it was fine, so put the hood back down. I had no idea what an HOA was, nor what it meant. I was just a happy, ignorant teenager eager to demonstrate how responsible I was with my wheels. A few days go by and we're hanging out at my friend's place when his mom comes home. She starts giving us the business, in that I'm annoyed but I'm not trying to be voice, about a warning she received from the HOA regarding repairing cars in your driveway, complete with a photo of my piece of crap with the hood up. Really, she was being pretty good, though clearly annoyed. We explained that we weren't repairing anything, that I was just checking the oil level and didn't even need any tools. Picture just had the hood up. She softened quite a bit and the focus of her annoyance shifted from us to the HOA, since it's entirely reasonable for anyone to check the level of oil in a car. She finds her copy of the HOA rules and we all read them together. Sure enough, there's a bylaw that says you can't repair a car in the driveway. I protest that I wasn't repairing anything, I was just checking the oil. Reading the exact rules on exactly what was forbidden sparked an idea. I looked at my friend, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Fight the power? Fight the power!" I proposed my plan to his mom and asked for permission since she's going to have to deal with the fallout. She's on board since she thinks this is supremely stupid, and we set in motion. Cue the malicious compliance. Every day after school, my friend and I drove our piece of crap machines to his place, parked in their driveway, raised the hoods, and just looked at the engines. No tools, we weren't even near them. We didn't check the oil, we didn't so much as touch them nor wipe them down with a rag. All we did was expose them to the birds, the sky, and God above, to just let them breathe. After a while, I got bored, so I started setting up an easel and drawing my engine 10 minutes at a time. My friend had to one-up me, so he decided he needed some tasteful artistic photos with his engine. He judged the best photos would be him laying over the engine shirtless, stroking and fake kissing it. Just absurd, over-the-top, moronic high schooler stuff. Predictably, the HOA was on us like stink on crap. The warnings quickly turned into fines, complete with pictures of both vehicles with their hoods up. Then, more pictures with mine with its hood up and an easel in front. Then, even more pictures with my friend's with its hood up, him laying in the engine compartment, and me taking pictures of him with the camera. Soon enough, his mom let us know it was time for the monthly HOA meeting. Of course, all 3 of us had to go in person to protest the fines. So, the motley pair of us show up along with his mom and his mom's stack of fine notices. I bring along my engine drawing, and we printed some of my friend's boudoir engine photos larger than normal. After a while, it was new business time, and my friend's mom steps up. I'm pretty sure they expected her to play the "my son and his friends are morons, please make these fines go away since I didn't know what they were doing" sympathy card. Nope, not a chance. She politely but firmly attested that she was being sent fines for something that wasn't in the bylaws, and asked the board to stop. One of the board members spoke up saying that working on cars was against the bylaws, and clearly that's what was going on since both hoods were up. Oh, you should have seen their faces when she corrected them that the bylaw said no repairs were allowed, that there were no repairs going on in any of the pictures since no tools were visible, and that we were just doing art projects for school. Even longer faces were seen when she showed my, truthfully, completely terrible drawing of my engine, along with the date stamped a couple weeks ago pictures. This was back when film cameras stamped a date directly on the picture of my friend trying to seduce his engine. The HOA president called for a 5-minute recess, during which the board huddled in a corner of the room. After the recess, the president succinctly said, "Ma'am, we are going to dismiss all your fines. Have a nice evening." We darn near danced out of that meeting. Being the obnoxious crapheads that my friend and I were, we had to do the drawing and photo routine a few more times just to make sure they weren't going to start sending more fines. They wisely didn't, and being victorious, we soon found other ways to annoy them. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Splash'em. It says, "Props to your friend's mom for fully supporting the two of you in your malicious compliance. Not only did she listen to you and take the time to do the research on the exact rules with you, but to support your actions at the HOA meeting was a good example for a couple of teenagers of how to advocate for yourself or others." OP responded to this comment and said, "We were both very lucky kids to have supportive families." All these stories we hear on Reddit about HOAs and how crappy they can be have led me to believe that I would never buy a house in a community that has an HOA. Although being up here in Canada, I can't honestly say I've heard of an HOA being up here. I completely don't understand why people would buy a property in an area that has an HOA. So if you're in one of those areas, could you comment down below why you bought the property there? Because to me, it just seems like too much of a pain in the butt. This story comes to us from Atism. Don't hurt the hand that feeds you. Let's jump right in. I'm working for a pretty big company. Lots of departments, lots of "we are the best" talk, and we really are. Core values are followed pretty well, and major issues get dealt with quite well. Apart from my boss, who we can call Gail. She's a micromanager to say the least, and a workaholic who expected you to do a lot, but never outside of your normal shift, since she thought OT was the devil for us hourly workers. My first malicious compliance was Gail tasking me with this monthly report to hand up the chain to Mandy, who was a pretty big deal. The report was intensive and very in-depth, so it took a lot of unpaid overtime to learn and get it down. Gail did not appreciate it and questioned what I was doing as to why it was taking so long. More on this later, as learning something out of my scope was not too appropriate. Myself and Mandy got to know each other well and developed a great working relationship, which certainly benefited me as much as it could. We were generations and countries apart, no romantics. Gail found out Mandy was asking me questions about my sites, and for some reason didn't take too kindly, and informed me that any and all communication from myself to Mandy must go through her, Gail, including this report. Thankfully, Gail has a company-wide reputation for being a bit cray-cray, so I could hear Mandy roll her eyes on the phone the first time Gail sent her a report rather than I. I had told Mandy that Gail knew very little about this report, especially the most important part, and 2 specific questions would likely have her forward those questions to me to answer. So, of course, those 2 very specific questions were brought, but not by email, but rather on a big call of bigwigs, just as I happened to step out of the office and was unable to field quick questions from Gail over the computer. And the feedback was nothing but a roasting from Gail, as she had, of course, said the report was hers initially, and thus the report was taken away from Gail and I altogether. This upset Gail, so she hammered back why I didn't do other work while I was learning this report. 6+ months had passed, and I had it down to an absolute science that took no time updating, and asked me to begin logging everything I do every day. Due to other factors in this job, HR was already looped in on everything that was going on between Gail and I, so this was as well. As you can already guess, the long story short is this log was filled out to the minute, after every task, phone call, or anything I did, including time for filling out the log. The amount of detail I put in for this log, Gail wanted as much detail as possible, allowed for me to actually spend 2 to 3 minutes filling out this log for even the smallest task of a passerby of my office door asking me a quick yes or no question. I loved it. This unfortunately didn't allow me to complete all my normal tasks daily, and by the end of the first week, I had quite the pile of additional work. Gail, myself, and HR got on a call to discuss all this after the week, and HR obviously sided with me and told Gail to either push work off me to someone else or get rid of this log that showed I was skipping breaks. Good thing I wrote on the log. These weekly calls also got myself a separate payment for an estimated but realistic amount of unpaid overtime due to the first paragraph and another project. Good guy HR. Despite HR making my life a lot easier, Gail did not. So I made the decision to switch departments entirely. Zero carryover. Within 2 months of my switch, the entire department was functionalized with a few other departments due to creating a better balance of work to employee, changing the job scope of all my former colleagues entirely, and coincidentally rendering Gail's job useless. She was pushed to a special projects role for a year, where special projects then magically ended and she was let go. My new manager likes to send emails out of those under him who were promoted. She was able to see 2 of those with my name on it. The second, just days before her final one. Ah yes, the special project. Anyone who's worked long enough knows that's code for you done messed up. But we can't easily fire you because you're too high up. Here's a year to go find another job and piss off. I agree, micromanaging bosses are a pain in the butt, especially the ones that come in and take over an already established team. You know, one that already knows how to do their job and do it well, but then they come in all up on their high horse and have to try and manage every little detail. Oh, the morale just goes through the floor. I've been in that situation a couple times myself. It is not fun. This story comes to us from I3I2I. Not today. Let's jump right in. Jump in and hang on, friendly Redditor. This one's kinda long. My apologies. For your troubles, I'll give you 2 malicious compliances for the price of 1. My now ex-boss was hired after me and relied heavily on me to run the department, which I did. Before his arrival, I ran the department by myself and had near complete autonomy. I only answered to the owner and his son. Since I was expected to do everything on my own, I was well versed in the contents of my job description, and I followed them to the letter. Once the new boss came on, our department got more responsibility to include other buildings on the property. Since I was previously not responsible for the other buildings, I decided to do an audit and inspection of the buildings to make sure they were compliant with codes, regulations, etc. One of the buildings was seriously non-compliant. They needed to either shut the building down and fix everything, or tear it down completely and start over. Since my job description specifically stated that I was to conduct audits and recommend building closures due to unsafe working conditions, that's exactly what I did, by email to my boss and senior management. Well, my boss had a fit. He said I never should have sent that email, and how dare I tell the owner what to do with his company, etc. I told him it was part of my job description and showed him the exact sentence. He didn't care, which pissed me off because it was employee safety we were talking about. I made a fairly big stink about how terrible it was that they cared more about production than they did about safety. I got marched into a conference room with my boss and the HR manager, and they proceeded to berate me for 20 minutes about my unprofessionalism and my insubordination. I asked them how it was possible that I was being insubordinate when I was following my job description. They had no answer for that and instead said they needed to see an increase in my performance or else. From that day forward, my boss required me to send him a daily report of every single thing I did so he could make sure I was doing my job to his expectation and that I didn't send inappropriate emails to the owner. Malicious compliance number 1. I sent him time-stamped emails for every single thing I did. 701. Read email from person. 702. Replied to person's email. 704. Read email from another person. You get the idea. The first day I sent him 119 emails of things I did, including my use of the bathroom. Now on to the next. Remember when I said I knew my job description? One of the bullet points stated that I was expected to liaise with outside agencies to conduct inspections of the facilities to ensure compliance with local, state, and federal regulations. One such outside agency was the local fire inspector, who we knew was coming on a Friday. All the way up until Thursday evening, my boss was expecting me to accompany the fire inspector during the inspection. He even reassigned things on my calendar to make sure I was free on Friday morning. Friday morning arrived and I was getting ready for the fire inspector. My boss came in the office and said, "I need you to hang out in the office today. Other person's going to do the walk with the fire inspector." It caught me by surprise, I'll admit. I told him that it was specifically part of my job description to do the inspection and reminded him that he had recently told me to increase my performance. He said, "You're not doing it. Is it because you think I'll report all of the deficiencies and get this place shut down? It's not that at all. Just so I understand you completely, you're telling me you don't want me to do my job? Not today." Here's the second malicious compliance, dear Redditor. I sat in my office and played games on my computer the entire day. I also made sure to comply with his daily email requirement at the end of the day. It was the only email I sent. 7:30, computer work. 1600, left. In the comment section for this one, OP mentioned that they left that job about 3 weeks ago. They also said that the owner's son forbade them from entering that building ever again. So not only was it the new manager that was having an issue with this inspection, but the owners didn't want it done either. OP does say that when they left 3 weeks ago, they may have made a couple of phone calls with tips to the relevant agencies in this case. And I really hope they went in and looked that over, because that's the safety of the employees there. OP, there's no shame in making those calls and putting in those tips. Well done. This story comes to us from PurpleBat811. Fix my issue, but don't talk to me about it. Okay, let's jump right in. For context, I work in IT. I don't deal with generic computer problems. I'm an expert in a complicated program at work. Almost every department in my work uses this program. When bugs and/or issues are found, I do my best to fix it myself. If I can't fix it, then I forward the issue to our vendor, who manages the program for us. Taking new versions of this program is a big deal. We just don't take it. We install the new version in a non-production environment, and every department must test it and sign off on it. This process can take 1 to 2 months to complete. Now enter our Karen of this story. Note that dealing with her has always been an issue. She always gives me crap for bugging her when I have questions. I thought it was personal, but I asked other people in HR about her, and they confirmed that she is always a pain in the butt to deal with. We were 1 day away from taking an upgrade. This upgrade was important as it had new features that were needed for new clients, plus several extremely needed bug fixes. This is after we went through testing and got sign-off from every department to take the version. Of course, Karen opens up a help desk ticket on the new version. It's a big enough issue to cancel the upgrade, submitted literally in the final hour. Needless to say, even the higher-ups were pissed, and I got huge pressure to submit this to our vendor ASAP. The help desk ticket stated the issue, and at the bottom of the ticket was this sentence: "You may not contact me about this issue. There will be no IMing, calling me, emailing me, or standing next to my desk." So I reviewed the ticket, and can you guess what the issue was? User error. Cue malicious compliance. Since I couldn't talk to her about it, I went straight to the higher-ups, the same people pressuring me to submit the issue. Told them the problem, and I wasn't allowed to contact her about it. They said they would take care of it. About an hour later, Karen comes sheepishly to my desk. This was the nicest I have ever seen her. I pointed out the issue to her, and she said she would review it. 5 minutes later, I got an IM from her saying to close the ticket. The upgrade then proceeded as planned. This happened several years ago. I wish I could say she got fired for this little stunt, but that didn't happen. However, I got the next best thing. She was no longer in charge of testing. In fact, I haven't gotten a single help desk ticket from her since. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Stabmaster. It says, some managers say I'm way too 90s about it, but if it's not in an email or communication through the ticket system, I don't talk to people, particularly for that one reason. There is now an undeletable paper trail showcasing who said what I did versus what they say I or they did, how long it took to respond, etc. OP responded to this comment and said, yeah, I was shocked that she put that down in writing. Undeniable proof. So what I'm not understanding from this story was Karen trying to delay the launch? Because it seems like putting in a statement saying don't contact me in any way is just a way to purposely delay things happening. But with a statement like that, OP did the right thing. Okay, you don't want me to contact you? Then I'm gonna go directly to management and they can deal with you themselves. Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll see you tomorrow.